Ok, hola, bienvenidos al parte 2 del capítulo preliminar. Bienvenidos. So we're going to be here on Capítulo Preliminar, part 2. Okay, parte 2. And in this part, we're going to look at the rest of this chapter. And so what we have here is use numbers from 0 to 99, express dates, tell time, comment on weather, and I'll just make reference to the last section of this chapter that is titled Use Classroom Expressions. Okay, so the first section we're going to look at here on part 2 of this chapter is going to be los números. Okay, los números. And so it's pretty self-explanatory in the section within the book, but I just wanted to comment on the pronunciation of the numbers here to begin with, and then a quick explanation about the construction of the numbers themselves. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through this together, just so we have the correct pronunciation for los números 0 a 99. Okay, so 0 to 99. So what we have here: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 30, 31, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Excuse me. So what I basically just did is went through the numbers that we have here on page 14, la página 14. But what I wanted to point out, and we see with the construction of the numbers in Spanish, that, for example, once we're at 20, number 20, okay, what we have is we have 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, 29, y 30. But what we have here with 20, with the 20s, is that we, instead of having, like we have here with 31, 30 and 1, or 31, is what we have here is we have, basically we're taking the Y, which is the word for and in Spanish, and we're turning it into an I. So we have here one word that has been turned into 21, one word together. Same as with 22, 22. And for whatever reason in Spanish, the number 20 and to 29, they tend to form just one word like we see here. However, after 29, 30, very simple, very, very simple to use. So we have 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, etc. And we go to 40, 40, 41, 42, 43, etc. And we follow that pattern all the way up to 99, and we have 90, 91, 92. Okay, so with the numbers, again, this being an online class, we're going to study this together. Or I'm sorry, we will be studying this on our own. But I think this part is something that I wanted to mention, just so you have an idea to keep this pattern in mind. And if you do have any questions, then we can discuss that at a later time. On the next section here, we're talking about expressing dates in Spanish. Expressing dates. So on this very first section here, we're looking at meses del año. So these are the months of the year. And we have enero, febrero, marzo, abril, mayo, junio, julio, agosto, septiembre, octubre, noviembre, diciembre. And we have a little cutoff here, I think, on my screen, but just the last ones being November and December. Noviembre y diciembre. Also, we have días de la semana, or days of the week. Lunes, martes, miércoles, jueves, viernes, sábado, domingo. All right, our next time, we're looking at here telling time. Telling time. And we also call this in Spanish la hora. En español decimos la hora. So I'll go ahead and start right down here at this bottom section. So keep in mind when we're telling time in Spanish, we use the verb ser when describing the time. Remember, we use es for describing 1 o'clock, and we use son, the conjugation son, to describe any time between 2 o'clock and 12 o'clock. So let's look here very quickly. If it's 1 o'clock, or anywhere within the time 1, whether it be 1 in the morning or 1 in the afternoon, it's all the same. So we have here 1 o'clock. Es la una. 1:30. Es la 1:30. 1:20. Es la 1:20, etc. Now with 2 o'clock to 12 o'clock, we're always going to use the conjugation son, okay, the plural conjugation of the verb ser that we'll look at in more detail in the following chapters. So the first one here, 2 o'clock, son las dos. 4:30, son las 4:30. 7:15, son las 7:15. Okay, and finally, we'll talk a little bit in this chapter about the weather. All right, now you might be asking, what does the weather have anything to do with this chapter? I also find it a little bit funny at times, but this first chapter, bear in mind, really just focuses on general discussion, general conversation. You can call it small talk if you will, but these are all things that that people tend to talk about when they're meeting another person. Okay, my name is this. Maybe you have to describe an address or you're describing numbers. Small talk about the weather, or just asking about the weather because it's pertinent information. But this right here, el tiempo, we use the verb hacer, which means to do or to make, to describe the weather. All right, so I wouldn't worry too much about what exactly does the verb hacer mean, how do I use it? We'll use this much more in following chapters. But let's look here about forming a question about the weather. So we have the word here, ¿qué?, which means what, tiempo, which means weather, and so the question, ¿qué tiempo hace?, is just in English what it means here is what's the weather like. Hace buen tiempo, the weather is good. Hace mal tiempo, the weather is bad. Okay, and that's going to be the end of this tutorial video. There is a last section in our textbooks, and this is going to be called expressions, useful expressions in the classroom, or en español, expresiones útiles en la clase. Okay, and these are going to be different things that your teacher would say, or that you could possibly say to your teacher. For example, one of these is no comprendo, no sé. And so this is going to be on page 20, en la página 20 of your textbook. And I'd recommend just looking over these, make flashcards if you must, practice as much as you can. I think these are really good expressions to use so that if you are ever in a classroom setting with Spanish somewhere down the road, a face-to-face classroom setting, then these expressions I think will be very useful. So I recommend looking over that, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me and or meet up with us in one of our Skype meetings that we'll have on the weekends. I hope to see you soon, hear from you soon. Have a great day. Adiós, nos vemos más tarde. Que tengan muy buen día. Chao.